Good Monday morning and welcome to Kramer's Corner with a daily technical update. It is the 23rd of September and today we'll have a look at Novo Nordisk that was sold off Friday after some reports of disappointing test results in a trial on one of their drugs. And it is bouncing a little bit today, as we can see here on the daily chart. But there is some support and there is downside risk because now we are, as we can see here on the RSI 40, we are below 40 threshold. There is risk down to the key support area here around 816, 806, 806 and a half. And we can also see that the 55 moving average has crossed below the 100 moving average. So it is under pressure quite a bit here on the weekly chart. We can also see what's going on. If it does close below 806 and a half, well, then we are in a bearish trend that on the medium to a little bit longer term. So a little bit of struggling there for Novo Nordisk, or it could spell some trouble at least. Moving on to the S&P 500, stalling a little bit Friday, but we are still in a bullish trend. There's no divergence as indicating by this little text here. So there is still upside potential to 5,800, potentially higher. Still also here on the US 500 CFD, there is potential higher. It could dip down to, even if it goes down to 5,600, that could maybe tell you that the uptrend has stalled. But the interesting part here is that Nasdaq 100 is lagging quite a bit, is not getting close to its all-time highs just yet. It was rejected Friday here at the previous peak. So this peak here, this bearish engulfing peak here, 19,939. If it does close above that, then I also think it takes out this gap area here. If we are closing below 19,620, well, then I think we could see a selling pressure resume, trying to push it down to around 1900. Then we could be caught range bound here for a little while. Same picture on US NAS. The US NAS 100 CFD just below 20,000 and just below this spike up here back here in August. On the European markets, it had some promising move last week on EUROSTOXX 50. It actually closed nicely with a bang, this gap area here, but then it got hammered back down Friday, really struggling now. So that's the thing. Now it will be a little bit indecisive, and I'll actually say it needs to take out 49.44 to the upside, and then it still has this upper falling trend line and the previous engulfing peak here at 49.87. So for now, it sometimes the picture can be a little bit frustrating, and it is frustrating at the moment. We could resume downtrend, especially if it breaks below 48.15. Then it could really being pushed lower, and then it will also be back below 55 and the 200 moving average. On the EUROSTOXX, well, that's the same picture really. It spiked just above the 786 retracement and now back below 48.82, and it could spell some trouble if it moves back below 48.12, 48.10. The DAX index, so what is it doing here? Well, now there's divergence. We can see this RSI top here is below this top here, and that is a divergence now, and we can draw a trend line just to highlight it. As you can see here, this one is declining, but it was a higher close, so they actually did cancel this top and reversal pattern. If it moves back, if DAX moves back below and close below 18,590, I would think we will see the selling pressure resuming down to around 18,230, maybe a little bit lower. If it takes out the peak from from last week, Thursday, well, then expect higher levels. But we could also have a double top going here. So that is really something in the cards. It's not confirmed just yet. Here we have all the GER40 CFD top, and this double top pattern could be in the making, but it needs to close below the lowest part of that area, of that formation, to confirm that, and it hasn't done that just yet. There's still a bit of way to go. If it takes out Thursday's peak, expect higher levels on the German index. Amsterdam index rejected at 909, and maybe it could slide back lower. If it moves back below the cloud here, then the key support 878 will come under pressure and likely be taken out. We are still in a negative sentiment on the RSI, so that is indicating we could see a downtrend resume. CAC 40 here also couldn't follow through, and is now sliding back below 74.64 as we speak. If it moves back below 73.41, then expect further lower levels. So we are in a little bit of a pickle here. There is negative sentiment on the RSI, so it seems like we are going to slide back lower. Swiss market, well, caught range bound is still between 12,120, 11,875. Euro dollar is being sold off this morning. It's just below, it's still below 112, but we can see here on the weekly chart, we have been looking at this so many times. We are still in a bullish trend, but it seems to be struggling a little bit. However, there's no divergence on the RSI. We can see the close here was lower than this one, so it's still not confirming a reversal. However, the 200 moving average, the weekly here, is declining, so it is dragging on a little bit, and that means we could be caught range bound. If we are looking at the daily chart here, we could be caught range bound between 110 and 112 for quite some time and be very volatile in that range, and that can be frustrating. If it takes out the 19 September low at 110.68, well, then the 110 could be tested, but we have the 55 moving average coming up there giving some support, and the other moving average also rising. There's no divergence on the RSI, and it is still in a positive sentiment, however, so the medium-term trend is still up, but it is struggling at the moment, so expect some volatility in this range between 110 and 112. The euro sterling, after breaking below 84, is pushing towards 83.40 and could actually push lower. If we're looking at the weekly chart, we can see that, well, 83.40 is the next level, and also this falling trend line, but that is not a very strong support anyway. So 83.40, if it breaks below that, well, then we are looking at lower levels, 83.30 level. The cable also setting back a little bit this morning, and we actually now have divergence with this peak close here Friday, but the RSI didn't confirm it. However, the medium-term trend is still bullish. There's no divergence here, as we can see. There are higher highs both on the RSI and the chart, the currency pair itself. So maybe this is just a correction that will take about. What we can do, we can get an idea where it could what it could retrace to, and if we just add this one here, we're gonna say, well, 138.10, 138.11 should be in the cards, but even also down to 131.30 could be seen the 61.8 retracement. Dollar yen bounced last week after forming this doji morning pattern here. That's the bottom and reversal indicator. Stalling now and being rejected at 61.8 retracement and 144.30. There is room higher. We can have massive divergence here on the sell-off down, so we could see a push higher if it takes out the peak from today, actually, at 144.47. Well, then 145.57 is likely to be tested, 786 retracement, but it will be key that it can close above this resistance here at 147.21, and that can be a bit of a struggle since we have the 55 moving average coming down. However, if we are looking at the weekly chart, we can see what's also going on here. It bounced from the support at 140 and a quarter, dipped just below, and it actually formed, as we can see here, a bullish engulfing pattern on the week. We don't see that often on FX, but when we see it, it's usually on the weekly chart. It is currently being rejected at the 100 weekly moving average, so that will be a bit of a struggle. However, if it can break above, well, then we are looking at 140 and a change, which is the 38.2 retracement and resistance also, but that will also require a break at 147.20. So we are a little bit of a crossroads here, and the weekly chart, no divergence on the RSI, indicating we could see lower levels medium term, but short term there is some corrections unfolding. But let's see how it pans out. If it slides back lower and takes out 141.70, I expect the selling pressure to resume in dollar yen. Euro yen rejected at 786, retracement 161.23, could resume downtrend. Still negative sentiment on the RSI, and if RSI drops back below 40, expect selling pressure to resume back lower. The hammer is still here at the bottom of reversal, is still in play. It did spike down, but it didn't close below, so it's still in play. But we could resume downtrend. At least I will not call any upside potential until it actually breaks above the 161.25, and then it has some really strong overhead resistance higher up at 163, so that can be a bit of a struggle also there. So yen pairs could easily resume downtrend. On the Aussie yen, also rejected at 786, retracement 98.50. Really strong resistance here at 99.91. That will be key. It needs to close above that, and we need RSI back above 60 for further upside potential. On the sterling yen, more or less the same picture really. 193.49, 190.50, I would say, if we need to close above that, and also preferably above the cloud, and the RSI needs to close above 60 for further upside. Otherwise, I think we will see it sliding back. Aussie dollar, stalling a bit here. There is divergence now on the RSI. We can see this value here is lower than this one over here. So we could see a bit of a setback, and this is what you can do also on your chart at a Fibonacci, and just get an idea. Well, we could see a retracement back down to 67 actually. Well, we'll get that. That's still too early to call. We're still in a bullish trend. There's still upside potential to 69. We can also see here up to around 69. That is the key strong resistance on Aussie dollar. So maybe a little bit of correction and then another push. Dollar Canada also very frustrating at the moment. I would say we need to break out of this this big candle here. We saw this massive move here last week. So to the upside, it would be at 136.50. Add a little bit extra. That's always a good idea. And 135.30. Subtract a little bit. That would be the range it needs to break out. It will probably trade around the 135.90. This pivot point here. But this will be the range that it needs to break out for direction, and that will give us an indication. EURUSD rejected at the 35 moving average, pushing it down here, and also RSI rejected at 60 threshold. If RSI moves back up below this lower rising trend line, and especially below 40 threshold, expect selling pressure to really accelerate and push it lower. And we are below the cloud. We are also below 95, and I think we will see Euro Swiss resuming downtrend. Dollar Swiss still in this range, 85.40 and 84. That should be observed. Could knock on it, try to test it once again. If we see another break above, well, then we could possibly see a push towards 86, 86.30. Finally, on the dollar index, still trying to bounce higher. If it takes out the spike up there from the other day on the 19th September. It is the 19th September move for most of the FX pairs that are interesting. 101.18, a break above that, well, then we're looking at 101.86 key resistance. Gold pushed higher Friday and has spiked a little bit higher this morning, almost up to, and let's have a look at what we are actually facing here. We can see it here on the, and I have to switch to the monthly. You can see we talked about it last week. You can see the more in deep conversation about that. Well, the from the lows or the trough here to that peak correction, then we have correction, and then we are just projecting it higher, and that is at 26.43.5, very close to that. We have the RSI at an extreme, more or less. Well, it actually was a higher over here, but there's now divergence on the monthly chart, so I think we could see a little bit of stall, but I don't have a top and reversal in place just yet. Here we are on the weekly, we're still on the daily, we're still having divergence on the RSI, so it's not really, it tells you that the uptrend is in exhaustive mood, but still we are in a bullish trend, so trust the trend for now. But I will be a little bit cautious of establishing a new long positions on gold. Silver rejected just below the 31.55 strong resistance, and it is around that level. It's not exactly that level. We are still in a bullish trend. Still potential up to 32.5, but it needs to take out 31.55. Expect a little bit of a support around 30 level. Could slide back down to that, but I'm not quite sure about it. But if it takes out 29.70, well, then we could see selling pressure really increasing again. So a little bit struggling, but 31.55 is the key resistance to look out for. On copper, also stalling a little bit. Can't really get up to the 100 moving average, but we are in a bullish trend. There is positive sentiment. However, we can see 55 moving average also trying to drag it lower to it's only 55 moving average that is pushing higher. So it will be a little bit of a struggle for copper to trade higher, but again, we are in a bullish trend for that metal. On the WTI crude oil seems to be rejected here at 72.41, just below the 61.8 retracement. I actually expected that to be tested, but we had the previous support there, then it was a resistance, and if it takes out 69.73, again, subtract a little bit, it could dip below, but if it does close below, well, then expect downtrend to resume with likely lower levels on the Brent crude oil. And we talked about before, if we're looking at the and let's go to the weekly chart here on WTI, we can see well, it did actually test the rising trend line that it broke out of, and now it seems to be sliding back. Negative sentiment on the weekly, no divergence. There is a lower potential for WTI. More or less the same page, obviously, on the Brent crude oil. Reached the 50% of this sell-off here, just below 75.58. We can also see how it actually also just almost tested the rising trend line and could be sent back lower here in coming weeks. So keep an eye out on that. Finally, on the US 10-year, and let's zoom in to see what's going on. Still struggling with the falling trend line, currently just around it, opened just above it, but 376.5. If it breaks above that, expect a move up to around 385. Otherwise, we could slide back lower. All right, that's all for today. Have a nice day, and talk to you again tomorrow.